Hello and welcome to the Good Old Football Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I pushed this back one day because I thought yesterday morning when I saw that the NHL was making an announcement, I thought it might give us some direction as to what that meant for other sports leagues. But as Gary Bettman was talking, I realized it doesn't really matter. All leagues are still at least 6 weeks away from playing, and the NFL is just getting lucky to have some idea of what does and does not work for these leagues. So it looks like we could have hockey, maybe basketball back sometime in July, maybe baseball. How that will look and feel, we don't know at this point. But it's nice to have something to look forward to, right? Welcome to the Good Old Football Podcast. Thanks for tuning in on a Wednesday. I don't know that I've ever published on a Wednesday before. This is exciting. One comparison I've seen a lot that I don't like is saying that the UFC has worked well without fans. Yeah, but that's because every UFC fight is the biggest fight of that fighter's career, or they're clawing back to getting a shot at the biggest fight of their career. In the NFL, it's not going to work like that. Teams will play hard when they're fighting in week 1, 2, 3, 4, no matter who's in the stands. Like, I think if we have to go with limited fans or no fans, that first month will be great. But then you get to week 11. And a team is 2-9, and it's been miserable for them because in addition to everything that's going on, they have no shot at the playoffs. They've got 5 more, maybe 6 more weeks of this with no one in the stands, which seems like a possibility at this point. And that's when you get to the point where you're probably going to get some really, really bad games. If you're a bad team and you're down 21 points in the second quarter because Patrick Mahomes is in town, Lamar Jackson's in town, Joe Burrow's in town, then you're probably not going to feel like playing football. You're probably going to lay down and die, and that's when things could get very ugly. Now, that said, there's no real point to talking about this stuff yet, other than to entertain ourselves, which is what we're doing here, right? There's really no point in having these discussions, especially as it pertains to the NFL, because things are changing by the day, by the week in the NFL regular season, still more than 3 months away. But we got to keep ourselves occupied when we're not watching Netflix or pretending that we enjoy the Zoom happy hour we agreed to, so it's okay to talk about. Speaking of Netflix, watch Uncut Gems the other night. Not for me. And I love Adam Sandler. I obviously love sports. I enjoy the aspects of gambling, even if I don't do it as much as a lot of people who share the same interest as I do. Just too much yelling all the time. I don't want to watch a movie where 90% of the 2 hours is just people yelling and screaming. Anyways, the other interesting theoretical, if the NFL can have fans return to stadiums, let's say not in September, but December or January, then do they move the season to late winter, early spring? We could see a Super Bowl played in May. That could be neat, right? Anyways, it's just all theoretical at this point, but we can't stop talking about it either. Now, as far as baseball goes, we might not see baseball played at all at this rate. They're trying to pay guys like $50 a day at this point. Under the current proposal, I think they said Garrett Cole would make $9 million this year, which is probably what the Yankees paid their ace in like 1936. Garrett Cole's supposed to take a $27 million salary cut just so baseball can figure out their numbers. Baseball is going to be in trouble without $9 beers and $45 hot dogs. We'll see. Baseball kind of not looking good right now. The cherry on top of this madness, I realized this the other day, is that with everything going on and in such a strange time to be alive, we also get Cowboys fans, to some degree, kind of saying, yeah, maybe we should go with Andy Dalton in the future. And if you listened last year, by the way, if you've been listening all along, you know, before Dalton and the Cowboys were a thought in anyone's mind, I've always thought Dalton and Dak Prescott, very similar quarterbacks. When Andy Dalton had a good team around him, he gets mentioned as a top 10 fringe quarterback, just like Dak Prescott does now. Where Dak, I should say, is clearly better than Andy Dalton is that Andy Dalton will panic when defenders start to get him around him. He will force passes, and he looks very goofy, and that's when you see highlights of him looking that way. So this kind of all stems from the rumors out there that Dak wants $35 million a year. If that's true, and I were a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, I'd say give me Andy Dalton and then add another 3 or 4 pieces around him. They've already got a good team down there. Dak Prescott, maybe the 11th, 12th best quarterback in the league, wants $35 million a year. Are you high? He's barely in the top third of guys at his position. I can name, 10 quarterbacks easily better than Dak. Mahomes, Breeze, Rodgers, Big Ben, Russell Wilson. There's 5 more. Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz. There's 10. And you could make an argument for guys like Josh Allen, Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carr, and he wants to be the top paid guy? And on top of the, 14 guys I just named, if given the option, if any NFL teams right now were told, hey, you got Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, and Dak Prescott, what's your big board look like? 90% of the teams are taking Kyler Murray or Joe Burrow over Dak Prescott. And as I look at the list of quarterbacks now, I didn't even mention Matthew Stafford. There's another guy. You could make I don't even know if Dak is a top 15. He's a fringe top 15 quarterback. I personally, and I know this probably wouldn't be the popular opinion, I would take Sam Darnold over Dak. I think Matt Stafford and Sam Darnold are better quarterbacks. They just got drafted to crappy franchises. If you put either of them with that running game, that offensive line, who knows? Who knows? I'm definitely taking either of those guys. And he wants $35 million, reportedly. Even $30 million, no way. $25 million, no. There's never been a greater abundance of quarterbacks out there. Cam Newton is a free agent. If Cam Newton's healthy, and look, I know he's not the leader, not the locker room guy Dak is, but if you can get Cam Newton right now for $15 million a year, give me him over Dak. I mean, the New Orleans Saints have 3 quarterbacks who could start at certain places in the league. Breeze, Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston. You need to wait this out, Cowboys. By the way, I had pulled up here the what quarterbacks are making this year list. Phillip Rivers, who last year couldn't hit a house with a rocket launcher if he's standing on the front porch, getting $25 million this year from Indianapolis. Absurd. Erroneous. I should be an NFL GM. Would solve all of this. They're also now discussing, there's not a lot to talk about today, guys. They're also now discussing a 4th and 15 alternative to the onside kick. So basically, if you want to do an onside kick, instead you go to your own 25-yard line and you have one play to gain 15 yards. I don't like it. I get the argument. I get that I think it was only like 8% of onside kicks got recovered last year. I get that you want to involve the offense. You want to have more big plays. What's wrong with the onside kick? And I've been at NFL practices, and anyone, it doesn't take much. You don't have to be at an NFL practice to know this. The kickers and punters have their own separate field for the entirety of practice. Why can they not give half an hour to this jump ball or skip ball or whatever onside kick once a day? I love the jump ball onside kick. You put guys out there, if you're the receiving team, or maybe even the kicking team. I guess they all do it. Your best hands guys. I mean, we've seen guys like Calvin Johnson and A.J. Green out there who can jump 15 feet in the air, and then that's fun to have all pro guys out there on a special teams play. I just don't get, if you don't want to have to rely on the onside kick, don't be down with 45 seconds left in the game. It is always fun when the heavy hitters are out there and then they can mouth off to the special teams afterward, kind of letting them know, we shouldn't even be on the same field. I assume that's how it goes. But I mean, if your defense plays 80 snaps a game and then one play can give a team another possession in the NFL where games are rarely won by more than 2 scores, and that's why we like it so, I just don't like the idea. And it happens sometimes, but I don't like the idea of a team mostly dominating a game and then because of one 15-yard gain, you can have back-to-back possessions and potentially go to overtime. No. Tell your kicker who makes 7 figures a year to kick a ball, a very important ball, but a goofy job when you think about it, that you make that much money and your job is literally to kick a ball. Practice the aerodynamics more. Figure it out. We see it succeed, so do better at it. Maybe you bring in a guy just for onside kicks. There's got to be some great onside kickers out there. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, and it's one of those things, too. Maybe they go with the 4th and 15 for 1 year, and for whatever reason, they're changing too much. Things are fine the way they are. And then you don't have the sneak onside kick anymore, which we've only seen once when Sean Payton caught it in the second half of the Super Bowl, but it was amazing. Anyways, that's all I got. Short episode today. Not a lot going on. I'll be back in 2 weeks unless something crazy happens, which, hey, maybe it will. Time will tell. But really, kind of the quiet time of year in the NFL as every other league tries to figure out what they're doing, and baseball just, the news is getting worse there day by day. We'll see what happens with basketball and the NHL. At this point, anything's fun. I mean, that Tiger, Phil, Tom Brady, Peyton thing was outstanding. And, we'll see what happens. Right now, you got to think the NFL plays, whether or not that is with fans or without fans. We will see. But, hey, we'll be able to enjoy things and, or maybe we won't. Either way, life goes on. We'll have to deal with it, right? All right, Auto Magic will take us out. They have a new album out. Be sure to check them out wherever you get your music. If you want to follow along, I'm at Matt Edwards on Twitter. And you probably shouldn't do that. Twitter's been a very angry place this week. If you're thinking about getting in the Twitter game now, don't do it. Highly do not recommend getting in it at this point. Really, you should get rid of the internet. That's kind of where we're at. Build a cabin in the woods. We've all gone insane. All right, thanks for tuning in. It's the Good Old Football Podcast. I'm Matt Edwards. I'll see you back here in 2 beautiful weeks.